So there's a parchment that is found, which is a supposedly the original source of this sort of trial that went on with the Knights Templar.
The Chinon Parchment.
Yeah, that's what it was, the Chinon Parchment.
I think that's the forgery.
Some weird stuff in there, man. They were saying that like during the initiations, like the Templars, they had to denounce Jesus and then make out with each other.
Yeah, I think that was a later forgery. And the reason why I say that is because Napoleon had actually raided the Vatican archives on his campaign, his Egypt campaign. Actually, he stopped it in Italy to Rome. He raided the Vatican archives. He brought everything back to Paris. He was specifically looking for Templar documents, and he never found that document.
Why was he looking for Templar documents?
So, Napoleon was the illegitimate grandson of Bonnie Prince Charlie, who was the Scottish king in exile.
Okay.
And who was a Templar. And so he had an interest in Templarism because of that. I mean, that's not like widely known, but he was Bonnie Prince Charlie's illegitimate grandson, which is why his name Bonaparte just means basically of good blood. And he always said he was royalty, but he never presented anything to back it up. And this is also why he married a Merovingian princess, Princess Josephine. The Merovingians, of course, was the royal line of France. And there was some speculation that they were passing on an Atlantean tradition, of which Jesus and Mary Magdalene had been a part of, and their bloodline had been a part of. And that, so Napoleon wanted to be married into that. Add that to the fact that Napoleon's personal physician was Bernard Raymond Fabre Palaprat, who was the Grand Master of the Templar Order at the time.
Wow.
And he had encouraged Napoleon to go find these artifacts and to trace down this root information. So when Napoleon went to the Vatican and raided the archives, I mean, he set up a whole series of scholars specifically to look for Templar artifacts, and they never found the Chinon Parchment.
So he had a whole like army of people that were going through all the archives.
Yep. Yeah, they brought him back to Saint Sulpice in France, in Paris, and in fact, one of the people who was in charge of that was
what year was this? Roughly.
Oh, I
can you find it?
I don't know.
Is this
off the top of my head,
like not like information that you can find on the internet?
Yeah,
When did Napoleon invade?
You should be able to find it. One of the people that he had going through those archives was actually Alfonso Constance, better known as Eliphas Levi, who was a priest in Paris, who was known for writing very esoteric things, including a book on transcendental magic. And he was later in Freemasonry. Albert Pike, who was considered really the philosophical father of the Scottish rite of Freemasonry, when he wrote his book Morals and Dogma, 80% of that book is word for word copied from Eliphas Levi, which is kind of interesting. But this was the fact that they were going through these archives. They were finding all kinds of stuff on the Templars, and they never found the Chinon Parchment. And it wasn't until after Dan Brown's books came out,
Yeah.
that all of a sudden the church released this new document that they'd found that had just happened to be in their archives for the last 700 years without them noticing it. It was a little weird, but it seems to suggest that the Chinon Parchment is probably a forgery.
So you think it was just there to destroy the credibility and make the Templars look like sickos?
Well, what it did is it
I mean, back then they probably wouldn't have been that.
the big thing about the Chinon Parchment is it suggested that that the church wasn't behind the persecutions. Basically, it gave the impression that the church had pardoned the Templars, and that
the Chinon did
the Chinon Parchment, yeah, and then Philip the Fair persecuted them anyways and burnt them at the stake anyways.
right.
So, but it allows the church to wash their hands of it and say, well, we pardoned the Templars. Because, see, here's this document that just showed up that says we did,
Yeah, there was like stuff in there saying they had to denounce Jesus, they had to spit on a cross,
right?
And then they had to abstain from any intercourse with women.
Yeah,
none of that's real.
No, and then there was obscene kisses on the buttocks.
Yeah, they kiss their butts and their navels, and kiss each other on the mouth. And stuff.
There are initiation. I will tell you, there are initiation rites within the Templar Order.
This is the kind of shit you got to do at FSU when you're like being like hazed.
Yeah, right. I mean, in our degrees, there are some things that are similar to that, but it's not. It's highly distorted. No. Like there's a kiss on the back of the neck, and you'll find this in Sufi traditions as well. And it's this area, the back of the neck, was associated with Doth on the Kabbalistic tree, and it was this area is there's a ganglia here in the spinal column where the nerves go to both the pineal gland or the third eye and to the radial nerve, in which goes to these two fingers and the thumb. This is why you always see Jesus doing this, right? And it's designed to awaken that area in the person. There's also things where
why do you think they said they had to denounce Jesus?
The theory is that they were preparing them for if they got caught by Muslims during the Crusades, where they would be tortured, and they would have to do those things in order to survive. That's the mundane theory behind it. I don't think there was ever a denouncing of Jesus, but there was a denouncing of the cross, because according to Templar documents that were found and in the tradition, there was a belief that Jesus actually survived the crucifixion, and that it's abhorrent to worship the cross, this implement of torture, right?
Right.
And that
makes sense.
What we should really be worshiping is they saw Jesus as a brother, and they saw him as a exemplar. And this is the big difference between what Templars have taught versus what the church has taught. Templars have always taught that Jesus was the great exemplar, not that he was the great savior.
So they didn't view him as like a divine.
No, they saw him as divine, but no more divine than any of us, and that we all have the ability to do the things that Jesus did. In fact, even Jesus said that. He said, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, these miracles you see me perform, ye shall do also, and those even greater than these." Right? So he's saying anybody has the power to do these things through the universal consciousness, through the Christos. So Templars viewed Jesus as when Jesus spoke as the Christ, he was speaking as the universal consciousness. And that anybody has the ability to access that universal consciousness and have that universal consciousness work through them and be able to do the same things Jesus did.
Right.
But it takes a certain amount of devotion and understanding and internal work, before you could get there.
Right.
But Templars views Jesus as an exemplar. Like he was showing us the way of how we can be. And the only salvation comes from us personally attaining that gnosis, that divine knowledge. Because once you attain that knowledge, you really know who you are, you know where you came from, you know where you're going, and you understand the bigger order of things. So you know there is no death, right?
Wow.
Which is a profound statement, And the Templars performed initiation rites, and they still do, that are designed to help you understand that who you are is not just your physical body, and that there's a part of you that survives your physical body. There's a part of you that can live outside of your physical body, and that you have this whole other side to yourself that largely remains dormant in people till they're able to wake up.
Yeah.
So